Hey guys, what's up? It is your friendly neighborhood UberGoose here, back again with another Dota 2 video. This time we're going to be talking about Tiny, this little rock person here. So I want to talk about Tiny because a lot of people were expecting him to basically go right back into the dumpster when he got changed in 7.07c. In 7.07, he got changed substantially compared to his pre-707 self, and then in 707b, he got buffed substantially and his win rate skyrocketed. And then in 707C, he got, let's say, nerfed, and his win rate went down a little bit. His current win rate is somewhere around his pre-707 rework self, which I think is reasonable, but I do actually believe that he is better than that. And I'm also just now noticing that for some reason his left arm is really broken with these cosmetics. His thumb is like, it's the tree, and then like this finger has inverted textures, so if you look, like it's solid here, but then if you look at the, like it's... Anyway, the biggest changes that happened from pre-707 to now is, of course, he no longer has an armor passive as a skill. He no longer has Craggy. Instead, he has Tree Grab. This is replacing his Aghanim Scepter, does very similar things, although generally a lot stronger, but not permanent. Then Grow got changed very substantially. The biggest benefits of Grow now are the fact that it gives 40% status resist at level 3 and 15 bonus armor at 3. This means Tiny has more armor than he did previously. And of course, status resist being a new effect, and Tiny has the most possible of it, strictly because of Grow. He can easily reach 60+% in late game, which is pretty cool. I could demo something, but I think instead we'll jump into the game. Just a wee bit of a spoiler here. How did I, like, where, can I just do that? Yeah, we stomped it. I mean, we obliterated it. And by we, I mean, like, me and the 4 randoms that I was partied with. Or I was matched with. So I just went into this solo queue, got matched with four random people who were partied together, and we were against a 5-stack, and we obliterated the enemy team. So please keep in mind that this is not a realistic thing. You shouldn't expect to do as well as we did in this game on your average Tiny game. However, with that being said, I do think this game shows a lot of the positives of Tiny now. So I think it's a worthy game to talk about and show new Tiny for you. This game was also played on my stream. If you want to watch the VOD, I'm sure it's somewhere. It might be muted. I like to listen to copywritten music on my stream because I'm some sort of a badass or something who violates copyright law. I don't actually. It's just, I mean, technically we're not. Anyway, it's this whole big thing about Twitch and copyrighted music. Technically, they're not liable as long as they mute the VODs. Anyway, who cares? Point is, if you see my mouse pointing to things in this game, it's because I was interacting with chat, trying to articulate certain points about new Tiny and stuff like that. But I'll try and cover what I was covering here right away. As far as skill build goes, in my opinion, it's pretty close to objectivity, but the best skill build is max Tree Grab, then Avalanche, then Toss. A lot of pros are matching Toss before Avalanche, and I just don't understand why. Because when you math it out, it just makes more sense to max Avalanche first. And I'll try and explain that really quickly. So Toss, despite what the tooltip says, the tossed unit takes 30% additional damage from Toss itself. And as you can see, every point in Toss gives 75 damage and costs 10 more mana. And then, of course, when you work in the tossed unit damage, it ends up being around 100 bonus damage per point of Toss. When you look at Avalanche, it only gives 60. You have to keep in mind, though, most of the time that you're casting either Avalanche or Toss, you're casting the other one along with it, like the vast majority of the time, as long as you're using it on a hero. And in that situation, a Toss unit, not only do they take more damage from Toss itself, but they also take double damage from Avalanche. So every point of Avalanche instead of 60 gives 120. It also doesn't increase the mana cost per point, while Toss does. This leads me to believe that it is almost always just correct to max Avalanche over Toss, but pros are doing the other thing. I'm trying to figure out why it is. I personally can't quite figure it out. And it's not that I'm not watching the games. I actually am watching the games, and I'm seeing for situations, because there's one situation where it's better to max Toss, and that one situation is basically if your plan is to throw creeps a lot at them in lane, right? And that was like a very old thing that Tinies would do. Would be just huck creeps a lot for just at least something in the laning phase. The good news is, now with tree grab, Tiny doesn't need that help in the laning phase. He gets 100% cleave with some bonus damage based on the level of tree grab, and it works fully on denies as well as last hits, as well as just basic auto attacks. So if you go to deny your own creep, you can actually use that also as harassment, especially if you're against a melee hero like I am right now. All this being said, Spearbreaker is a very tanky melee hero, but you can see even though he, I believe, has the highest effective HP at level 1 of any hero in the game, if it's not the highest, it's very close to the highest. He used to be for sure. Even with that, he is getting harassed pretty heavily from me. And I have a Lion who's actually playing really well as a support. I'm messing up a lot of these last hits. I was really, it was just bad timing. It was just me fucking up. There's nothing about it. I should have quite a few more last hits than I currently have, but it's not the end of the world. So there you see, I actually went for, even though it wasn't a deny, I went for the hit on the allied creep to get the last hit to kind of further aggro deny and push it back in my favor. Because of course, as long as you're attacking with the tree in laning phase, it's gonna push in the enemy's favor, right? It's gonna go towards their tower. So your Lion comes in. He was like, "We're going," and I'm like, "Yep." But I messed up. I canceled my attack. I had 2 charges of tree left. I went for an attack, and then I was going to throw it for the last one, and it would have been a kill, but I messed up. Canceled my auto attack at the last moment and threw the tree. And it was just not good, right? Just bad. Just a mistake. And I felt bad about that one. But it's alright. This Lion, this 4-stack, they knew what they were doing, and they were actually like nice human beings, which is shocking, to say the least, when it comes to Dota. Again, I got really like, I really wanted the deny and the last hit at the same time, and I messed it up bad. I should have the Ring of Protection instead of the branch in my inventory, but whatever. So, along with the 707 rework, one of the biggest changes that a lot of people immediately noted, myself included, was that he has no agility, and no agility gain. This is obviously a reduction of what it used to be. In fairness, not a lot though. Tiny used to have 9 agility with 0.9 agi per level. This, especially with the changes to the armor formula, ended up being him starting with 1.5 armor, armor being 6 agi per point of armor now. Same thing happened again. You just got away. Poor guy. I mean, not literally the same thing, but you got away. Lion was beating himself up over it. I don't blame him. I was beating myself up over the last one, so yeah, whatever. So yeah, armor being 6 agility is 1 armor, so he loses out on 1.5 armor at level 1, and then a total of some incredibly insignificant amount of armor over the rest of the game, somewhere like 3, which is very small. The biggest change to the loss of agility has much less to do with the armor and much more to do with the attack speed, because Grow still reduces attack speed, but you no longer gain attack speed innately. This means that you actually are effectively forced into buying items that give you attack speed of some sort, whether that attack speed is from agility or just straight attack speed or what have you. You pretty much have to buy them. Otherwise, you will attack very slowly, like 2.5 seconds per attack at level 18 or something really terrible like that. Thankfully, though, you generally wanted attack speed on Tiny anyway, so the overall item build didn't change too terribly much. There I tossed the Rubik back onto the Lion. Rubik wanted to save himself from the Lion, so tossed me onto the Lion, but that was in range of, you know, hitting him. I think I salve here. Don't remember. Yeah. Probably not the most efficient salve. Salves are actually, like, very good. I mean, all regen is very good with the regen changes, but on Tiny in particular, health regen is very powerful because he has incredibly high base strength of 30, the highest in the game, and then he has 3.3 strength per level, which is a lot. So Tiny health regen items are really, really good. So you'll see I went for a Ring of Aquila here. This is fairly standard now. Arteezy is, I think, the first one to do it in a pro game on the new Tiny, and everybody has been following suit, and I don't blame them. The basic premise is this gives you 13 damage as Tiny, right? It's 10 damage and 3 strength. It gives you 9 agility, which is his old base agility. So it makes up for that. And then it gives you some int. And then on top of all of that, you get 2 armor from the aura, and then half a mana per second, which is actually a fairly large amount of regen. And of course you can activate the aura to make it push even harder, and Tiny is very good against structures with the way tree grab works now. As you can see, I actually deal literally just double damage to buildings, as long as I have a tree. We'll see this. 33. 64. There you go. Obviously there's damage ranges, so it's not literally exactly double. There's the 67. But you deal, I mean, that was only level 3 tree grab, right? And now I have it to level 4. I don't think that applied to the current one that I hold, though. I think it only will apply to the next one. It doesn't look like it. Well, let's see. 67? Yeah. So as you can see, I took down the tier 1 tower at 7 minutes. That's ridiculous. Here I was pretty much anticipating him to get away. I grabbed a tree. I decided to try and cut him off. I realized he went up. Lion also goes up. I try and cut off this angle, and Spearbreaker charged out. He ran pretty much straight up somewhere around the river, and then is charging mid. And was able to escape. So yeah, Aquila's super good. Just having an Aquila pretty much covers all of your early game bases compared to what Tiny used to be. On top of that, Aquila plus Power Treads is pretty much guaranteed to be enough mana to fully sustain tree throw, and then almost always have enough mana for Avatos combo in the early to mid game. So here Lion stacked that, and I wanted to make sure the Lion was going to be here for experience, but I don't think he actually stays here. So obviously next item I went for was Power Treads, which it's very similar to the Ring of Aquila in a whole lot of ways, obviously. I mean, it gives attack speed, great. It gives main attribute when you need it, cool. You can tread swap to be slightly more mana efficient, awesome. It is worth noting, I haven't quite done the math, but I believe tread swapping is generally less important now than it used to be. Or rather, swapping back to your main stat in between going to int for spells is less important, as long as the damage specifically doesn't matter. Staying on int will actually give you additional regen, obviously, along with the additional max mana. So if you have something flat regen, like a Ring of Aquila, mathematically it may work out to be that it's the same as far as mana efficiency to either stay on int or swap back to main stat. Or it might even be slightly more mana efficient to stay on int. I have no idea. I haven't done the math. It will also depend on a whole lot of other factors on top of that, so it would be really hard to math out, all things considered. So here I decide that I think I can kill this guy. Unfortunately, I messed up real bad. And then Necro honestly shockingly killed me. Right, that was a level 1 Necro, which is just... It should not have done that much fucking damage. You know? Like, let's pop open the combat log. Let's look at this, right? Target, Tiny, Attacker, Necro. Alright? I don't even... Reaper Scythe did 487 damage. Wait, did it literally exactly kill me? Doesn't it normally show overkill? If it does more than... Like, it might have literally exactly killed me. Because I was at 487, and it says 487, and there's no overkill. I could be misremembering. I thought it said overkill damage, but still, I don't think that should have been enough. I don't think that it should have done that. I don't think I should have died there. Like, I still don't think I should have died. I'm sure you could math it out and find out that yes, indeed, I still should have died, but fuck that, dude. So Luna's showing, or she was showing top. I wanted to, like, kind of cut her off. Then she just keeps walking forward. No care in the world. Avatos. Hit her a couple times. And free kill. So this is why you go the avalanche points, right? It might have even taken me one more attack to kill the Luna if I was maxing toss instead. You could math that out. Somebody math that one out. Show me that. And here I go, you know, just doing exactly what Arteezy did as well. In fairness, I think that a lot of people were leaning towards S&Y already, and a lot of people were leaning towards Aquila already, but, you know, Arteezy was kind of the first one to go Aquila into S&Y in a pro game, so therefore, it's the Arteezy. But S&Y is great. One of the big changes that happened in 707C, they added the armor to grow, but they also removed the movement speed on grow, which was actually a very old thing that has been on grow pretty much forever. And it's kind of weird that they removed it, but you know, even before they removed it, S&Y was very good. S&Y gives you % move speed. Here it is. It gives you 16% move speed, 16 agility, 16 attack speed, 16 damage, 16 strength. And that equates to, for an agility or a strength hero, 32 damage, 16 move speed, 32 attack speed, and, you know, like I guess it's 2 2/3 armor. Anyway, gives a lot of really good stats for Tiny. Super, super good stats. The % move speed, of course, is at this point maybe required. You might just actually need movement speed on Tiny now with the loss of grow move speed. There's another Avatoss, and that's a very classic thing that you do on Tiny, right? Avatoss is just a ridiculous amount of damage. I mean, so we can quickly math it out. Before any reductions, we're doing 700 damage with Avatoss, and that's not including the auto attacks I get out. And that's, you know, before reductions, admittedly, but after reductions, it'll be in the 400s of magical damage, which at the 13-minute mark is pretty much somebody's whole health pool, right? Maybe not their literally whole health pool, but it gets pretty close when you add in the attacks with a tree. And this is one of the reasons that you max tree grab first, by the way. The 12-second cooldown is super valuable. The bonus damage it gives is also super valuable, and it just allows you to actually farm at such a high rate without having to invest any items to do it. Normally, a lot of heroes who farm really hard, like Anti-Mage, will need something like a Battle Fury, or if you're Sven, you need to like max cleave and kind of lose out on your kill potential. Tiny doesn't actually need to do any of that. He innately has this high farm potential in a skill, very similar to cleave, except better in most cases, because it cleaves harder and even gives you bonus damage. And he doesn't have to sacrifice his hero damage by maxing it, like Sven has to do with cleave. Admittedly, Sven might not be the greatest example, because Sven doesn't really ever deal damage from skills. It's just Stormbolt that scales, and it scales pretty poorly, but you still get the idea. You still can have a hell of a lot of burst potential while maxing Tree Throw. So it's super valuable. And of course, Tree Throw becomes an even better farming skill the more points in grow you get. Throwing the tree, by the way, is one of the most satisfying things ever. I fucking love it. It's so good. My favorite thing ever is like somebody's super low, because Tree Throw has 1300 cast range, as you can see. It does also work a little weird, I have to admit. It works very, just kind of weird. I mean, you can unit target and it'll follow them to the ends of the earth, and it won't get stopped on anything else, but you can also skill shot it. You can point target, ground target, and it'll throw the tree in that direction. I believe I've seen both. I've seen both it going past the where you click, but I've also seen just dead so quickly. I've seen it go to the exact point you click and also go the max range. So I don't actually know which one's correct, because I've seen both. There might be some even more weird behavior that I haven't figured out yet. But the point is, it basically becomes a skill shot, and it'll explode on the first target it hits on that line and deal the damage there. So it's a bit weird, but it's really cool. And the Throne Tree works very similar to if you attack. It has the full splash and all of that stuff. The main difference, I believe, is that it, like, it doesn't say on the tooltip, but it did do, so previously, it was tree grab amplified damage by 30% in 707B. At the same time, tree throw was still 25% amp. Now, tree grab is 40%, and I didn't see any comment on tree throw, but also there's nothing on the tooltip of tree throw to say if it's even amped at all. You'd have to math that out. You'd have to actually like throw a tree and hit somebody with a tree like 100 times or whatever. See which one it is to get, you know, to try and work out everything with the damage ranges. Admittedly, Tiny doesn't have very high damage range. It's only 6 total, so 3 on either end of the average. It's a very low range, so probably wouldn't have to test it too terribly long, but, you know, that ain't me. Heroing for Drum of Endurance. I actually feel very strongly that Drum of Endurance is a very strong Tiny item, now in 707C. And this is because it gives you movement speed, right? It gives the flat movement speed as an aura. You can activate it to get more percent move speed and attack speed. Both things Tiny really wants. Of course, now it has 6 charges, which I believe when this item, like when Dota 2 was first coming out, or first popped up on Steam, or first went into closed beta, whatever you want to say, I believe this had 3 charges. It has 6 now when you buy it. On top of that, obviously, it gives... Here we go, we're going in for a fight. Easy Ava. Kill the Rubik real quick. Spirit Breaker's trying to run. Just cut him off. Throw a tree at him, it gives vision the entire way. Toss a creep, and we do clean him up. Tried to deny himself to neutrals, almost had it. On top of that, though, it does give 3 agility, which is half an armor, 3 attack speed. It's okay. It gives 6 int, which is also fine. Tiny, admittedly, does need a little bit of int, right? It gives 7 strength, which is 7 damage, and then some other shit. Some other harder to specifically calculate numbers. And then it gives 0.75 mana regen, which is slightly more than Aquila. In fact, I mean, it's 50% more than Aquila. So I think Drum is super good. So there I toss back the Necro. Do clean him up real quick. It went pretty bad, though. Luna was able to pop Eclipse and chase those guys down, and then I got chased down by the Spirit Breaker Coddle. I actually could have lived if I ran down for a moment. I ticked out to the urn barely. Admittedly, Luna was cutting me off, but if I actually ran up these stairs and then down, and maybe even just straight up left, like to the left, and then found a juke spot to TP, because I was only 1 mana short on the TP, so if I didn't take the Illuminate hit, I wouldn't have ticked out to Urn. Spirit Breaker Charge was on cooldown for at least a little bit. I could have maybe found a spot to hide and TP out. Hard to say, though. It would have been really close either way. Sand King has the least amount of fear I've ever seen in a man. Ended up killing the Spirit Breaker. It works out pretty well. Let's go to net worth to show you that I indeed do have the highest net worth in the game. So next you can see I'm building an Echo Saber. You might notice there's a very basic trend to all of the items and me talking about what items are good. Because the Echo Saber has, it has damage, it has attack speed, it has some int and mana regen, and then of course it has even more attack speed because of the double hit that happens. It's great. It's all around. It's just all around a good item. It's very good for Tiny. Very good for his burst potential. And it just makes a lot of sense. It makes so much sense for being, a Tiny item. Also, you saw me use the alt ping, or the ping menu ping wheel, whatever. I thought my team was going in, by the way. Like there was a very. Yeah, we got to. As you can see, the tree throw picked up the Rubik at the last moment. I knew I was going to die. I wasn't in range of hitting him, so threw the tree for my last charge at the Rubik. And luckily, Lion came in and gave the finger to Luna. Cleaned that hero up as well. And my team is going in, and it ends up being pretty damn good. Just a pretty sweet trade overall. Don't worry, I definitely wasn't alt-tabbed. So, the ping wheel that they added in Dota, that they accidentally added in 7.00 and then promptly removed and then added back in 707. I really wish, why can't it just work, I guess I can't do it in this, but they have the chat wheel, which works so nicely, right? Whatever your hotkey is, you just hit, drag, let go, and everything, it just works. There's no awkward delays or anything. You can be as fast as physically possible, and it just works, right? You can be so fast that it doesn't even visually pop up, and you'll still get the chat wheel saying off. So why is the ping wheel so different and awful? It takes like half a second of holding ping in that location for it to begin registering. And any movement before the ping wheel pops up doesn't do anything. So you need to wait that moment, then drag in the direction you want to go. And you gotta drag so far for some reason, and then it finally will register and work. And it's a mess. They have the technology, just make it the chat wheel. It doesn't bother me that much. It just bothers me enough that, you know, I'm not a fan. Coddle being a dick. Unfortunately, I was still blinded, and then Luna from Fog was just there, ready. Got the deny at the perfect moment. Sucks. So at this point, though, I could probably buy mostly any item, and we could still win the game. Oh yeah, watch this. You ready for this? Not today, Coddle. I do think Bounty Hunter is actually ridiculously underrated in the current patch. Track has always been pretty insane. And admittedly, Bounty Hunter won't often get to 25 for the 300 track gold. But assuming the 300 track gold means what I think it means, it's actually just busted. I mean, like, even if it's literally just 300 track gold to just Bounty Hunter and it doesn't apply to his allies, that's still 300 gold per track kill in a fight. That means if you get 5 track kills in a fight, you alone have built a 1.5k gold lead just from that talent. That's excluding all other track gold. It's insane. So here I didn't really want to back up the team because there's like a tower in the way. I would lose quite a lot of health to get in there. I also didn't think that we should be trying to attack high ground when there's a tier 2 alive. So I just waited for the next wave and then went kind of ham on the tower. One of the big nerfs that Tiny actually did receive in 707C is the fact that level 4 tree grab before had an attack count of 6. Now it has an attack count of 5 at all levels. So it's a buff to like early game, but a theoretical nerf to mid to late game when he actually has tree grab maxed, because he gets 1 less attack. But honestly, it's so minor that it doesn't feel like it matters too terribly much at all. The difference between 5 attacks with a tree versus 6 attacks with a tree is so small. Against towers, it's a bit more relevant, but in fairness, he also got his damage to towers buffed substantially from 75% in 707B to 120% in C. Admittedly, he did lose 60 damage on Grow, so there were a lot of trade-offs, and it's really hard to determine which one's better. But I do think that the changes to Grow, specifically adding 15 armor to Grow, is honestly one of the biggest buffs that this hero has received. And that might seem ridiculous given his win rate did go down with 707C, which is where these buffs, you know, were included. But it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of nuts. Because when you compare it to like high agility heroes, right? If you look at like Naga Siren, I think Naga Siren has like ridiculous amounts of armor, and I don't even think she has 15 total at 25 just from base armor plus agility gain. I'll look it up. And you're gonna be like, oh, why is the game feed so not beautiful? Why is it in 30 frames per second now when you're tabbed out? Gee, I don't fucking know, because Dota's dumb, alright? Naga Siren. So Naga has 21 base agi, 3.2 agi gain, and 3 base armor, which all of those values are a lot higher than Tiny. Right? Naga Siren, at level 25, with no other changes, has 19.3 armor. Right? Just from base agility gain and base armor and all that stuff. Now, if you assume Naga Siren has, say, 0 base armor instead of 3, then that brings her down to 16.3. So what I'm trying to get at is that even, like, agi carries have similar amounts, or even less. Most agility carries actually have less than that. Naga has a ridiculously high base armor. Most agi carries actually have less than Tiny, even at level 25 from, you know, their innate sort of stats. Now, Tiny will probably build less agi items than an agi carry. For example, Tiny often will probably not buy Butterfly. I do think Butterfly is actually a good Tiny item, though. With that being said, agility carriers will probably have more armor in late game, but Tiny does get more innately. He doesn't actually have to buy as much in most cases as an agility carry, which is tremendous. That's an enormous buff to Tiny. He's never been like that ever before. Because again, before he had 9 agility with 0.9 gain, and he actually started with -1. Lion accidentally stole my jump. He actually started with -1 armor instead of the 0 that he starts with now. So Tiny actually had like really bad armor before, and now his armor is actually good. It's bad in laning phase, but I feel like it kind of has to be, because he got so many potential laning phase tools, mostly from tree grab. That's like the biggest buff that he got to his laning phase. So I feel like he actually has to have 0 armor at 1 with no potential armor until level 6. But again, I do think that the 15 armor on Grow is obscene. Now you see, I'm going for a heart here. There was a game played in the Perfect World Major? Whatever it was, where Team Secret picked up Tiny and Morphling. Ace was playing Tiny, and the game ended while he was trying to build for a heart. I do think heart on Tiny is ridiculously good, for a variety of reasons. As you can see, I have 3,600 health right now as Tiny. I have 3,700 health at level 19 as Tiny. I do have a Reaver, but aside from the 25 strength from Reaver, my items are like fairly standard mid-game items, right? This is just because Tiny has such high base strength and such a high amount of strength growth. It's ridiculous how much strength he actually gets, how much health he actually gets. And one of the issues that Tiny has is that you often don't buy sustain items. You often don't buy items that actually give you health regen in any way. So all of his health regen comes from base plus strength modifier. Like literally, I mean, that's literally all I have here, right? And obviously, you can be earned or spirit vessel like I was there, and that can give you health regen and stuff like that. But as far as sustain goes, Tiny is really missing out. And you don't really want to buy lifesteal on him, because even though you hit really hard, you hit hard slowly, and your cleave doesn't give you lifesteal. You don't gain life from the cleave with lifesteal. So it's very good for all those reasons, right? It gives you regen, it gives you a shitload of health. I mean, it's 500 plus 40 strength. It's so much health. It's actually such an obscene amount of health that this item gives. How much is 40 strength for health? Why is my brain broken? Doesn't strength give 20 health per stat? If so, does this actually give 1,300 life? Wait, is that real? Okay, is that real? Is that more than... Yeah, okay. I think that might be real. 1,300. Yeah, that sounds real. That's fucked up. That's wild. That's some crazy shit. So if we compare that, that's 5,200 gold for 1,300 health. And then you regenerate 7% of your max health per second, as long as you haven't taken hero damage in the last 7 seconds. Now on top of this, Tiny has this innately high status resist, but when you buy a heart, that's 40 strength. As you can see here, I have 26.4 status resist from just strength. I believe these are additive, so it should be 66.4% status resist. This means I'm affected by stuns for somewhere around 1/3 their duration. And not just stuns, I mean slows, even mana leak only lasts for about a third, like it just wore off, right? You heard the cast and it was there for like a couple seconds and then it's gone. It's crazy. And here we go, like I was in the fight for a little bit, I stopped being hit for just a moment, and look at my health now. I'm back up to 3,000. And when this fight ends, I'm full health, despite actually being the focus for at least a couple seconds. Now, admittedly, at this point in the game, mana regen, not too hot. Definitely not too hot. Tiny is definitely the kind of hero that benefits a lot from your teammates having Arcane Boots or Guardian Greaves, or even having like a Coddle. Somebody that can just funnel mana into you is a huge boon to Tiny in late game, but it's not the end of the world either way. I'll briefly talk about talents. They're not too terribly exciting. I know I didn't talk about them earlier, but he has 30 damage versus 20% magic resist. If you're against almost exclusively magic damage, like this game, it would have been really good to go magic resist. They're both very close, both in pick rate and win rate in pubs. It's honestly up to preference. 30 damage, of course, is pretty substantial. It's a free 30 damage, and you deal, of course, bonus damage from tree grab, so it actually ends up being quite a lot, but 20% magic resist gives you, puts you up to a total of 40%, which is also very substantial. At 15, you have 125 Ava damage versus 350 health. Keep in mind that 150 Ava damage during an Ava toss combo is 250 Ava damage, so it's a lot. But 350 health is also a lot. It's 350 health. You know, gotta barn farm them. You gotta. So they're both really good. I went for the 350 health this game because I wanted to be a tanky, just crazy son of a bitch. Like, I have 4.7 thousand health. You know? Because I built a heart and took the health down and all that stuff. At 20, he has toss requiring no target or tree grab cooldown. Tree grab cooldown talent got nerfed, but that's only because the tree grab base cooldown was buffed. It still brings it down to 5 seconds at level 4, as it used to. It's generally better to go for that one. Being able to tree grab more is quite a bit more important in most cases than toss requiring no target. There's almost always a toss target in the direction that you want there to be. So you don't really need the toss requiring no target. It is potentially valuable, but it's not necessary. And then at 25, 3 toss charge versus 12-second Ava cooldown. 3 toss charge is so much better. You look at how fast telekinesis was. Look at how quickly it ended. And there's scythe as well. It's crazy. It did, of course, have to die in the end. It's the classic. It's the way it goes. So 3 toss charges is actually really insane. We were goofing around the entire game. Don't take me saying Reprot Lion feeder seriously, because we were fucking around the whole game. But yeah, that final talent, let's pop open Tiny real quick over here so I can show it. 3 toss charges versus 12-second avalanche cooldown puts Ava down to a 5-second cooldown, which sounds really good, but actually having 3 toss charges is insane, because each toss, it's not literally a stun like avalanche is. Although I think functionally it might actually still be flagged as a stun. Either way, actually no, I don't think it is. I think you just can't act, right? Because if it was flagged as a stun, strength heroes would be tossed for less duration, and I don't think that's the case. Anyway, they're in the air for a duration, so it's effectively a stun for that long, however long that is. I want to say they're tossed for like 1.2 seconds or something like that. Let me look it up. Where is Tiny? Tiny. Should be on the wiki. 1.3 seconds. So they're in the air for 1.3 seconds. That means if you take the 3 toss charges, you can keep one person in the air, assuming no avalanche. You can have one person stunned for 3.9 seconds. And again, I don't believe the toss duration is affected by strength and status resist, so it's just straight up 3.9 seconds of crowd control, where you can get a bunch of free attacks off, and obviously, you know, all that stuff. And it's very, very powerful. Obviously, 3 toss charges is kind of insane. It's also very silly looking to have one person just fly vertically like 3 times while getting beat up by a rockman with a tree. It's very silly looking, but it's very powerful. And that, I think that should just about cover it. If you want to see any stats, the stats are here. There's obviously a link to the game in the description. Building damage had 10,000. It's kind of Tiny's niche at this point. Skill build again was max tree grab. It looks like tree throw here because I skilled it while I held a tree. Hopefully they fix that bug at some point. But max tree grab first, then max avalanche, then max toss, taking grow when possible. I took 30 damage, 350 health, and tree grab cooldown. And that is just about it. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe, whatever, all that good shit. And I will hopefully see you guys in the next one. So thank you again for watching, and I'll see you later.